Many lessons ago, I introduced the concept of robot instructions by saying that there are two basic types of robot instructions, those that do things and those that sense things. So far in this course, we've covered a lot of ways that your robot can do things. You can make the robot move, or draw on its screen, or say things. Now, for the first time, we're going to have the chance to start sensing things. When I introduced you to the EV3 and its sensors in week 1, we discussed how the EV3 sensors can sense a variety of things, like how bright it is around the robot, whether the robot is touching something, or whether the robot's near something. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to program the EV3 to loop until it senses something. So far, we've seen 3 different ways to control your loop. First, we learned to repeat a fixed count of times. Then we learned how to repeat the loop forever. And finally, we learned how to repeat until at least a certain number of seconds had elapsed. In this lesson, we're going to learn one more way to control your loop, based on information from one of your sensors. In order to do the first example, you'll need to have a color sensor and one of those wires that looks like a telephone connector. Before we go any further, let's just review what we learned back in week 1 about the color sensor, or as I often refer to it, the color and light sensor. In color mode, it can report the color of a nearby object as long as that color is one of a limited few colors that it knows about. It's worth noting that color mode doesn't work fantastically well all the time. It'll only recognize, say, red if it's got a good view of it, and the red itself has to be pretty close to the standard color of a red Lego brick. Furthermore, when it reports no color, that really means no color that I recognize. In light mode, it reports, on a scale of 0 to 100, the amount of light entering the sensor. Something I didn't mention before is that there are actually 2 forms of light mode. In both modes, the sensor tells you how much light is entering the sensor, but they differ a little bit. In reflected light intensity mode, the light sensor turns on a red LED. The LED is bright enough that if the sensor is pointing at an object close by, it's possible that some of the red light reflects back into the sensor, so the sensor will report that reading. In ambient light intensity mode, the color sensor gives you a feel for how bright it is around the sensor without that red LED turned on. In fact, the sensor does emit a dim blue light when it's in ambient light intensity mode. LEGO says that's to let you know that it's in ambient light intensity mode, but that blue light won't affect the reading much. In this lesson's videos, we're going to use ambient light intensity mode. Later in this course, I'll show you an example where reflected light intensity mode is useful.